you listen to reason? Will you open your eyes? It's a wonder what you'll find with an open mind. You may be surprised. Yeah, gotta get away from this illusion for the sake of the world. This delusion, it's gotta go.
There's like one more drum beat than I think there is every time. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Atheist Experience Live. I'm your host, Matt Dillahunty. Joining me this week, Martin Wagner. Welcome back. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm all right.
We're today's January 7th, 2010, and we are live in the Public Access Studio in beautiful Austin, Texas. We're sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. The ACA has weekly meetings every Sunday at Romeo's on Barton Springs Road, beginning around 11:30, except for the first Sunday of the month, when we host a lecture series at the Austin History Center located at the corner of 9th and Guadalupe. We got our music on a loop, too.
Yeah, that just keeps going.
We'll get through some of the other announcements again in a minute. As usual, we're working on technical difficulties and miscellaneous stuff, but we are actually broadcasting live. I think we're fine now.
I hope so, yes.
With the microphone. We're going to start taking calls because this is a live call-in television program. We'll put the number up for you very soon. We're going to start taking calls almost right off the bat, and today we're just going to see roughly how many calls we can get, how many we can get through. Obviously, with only 3 phone lines, you can expect it to be busy when you try to call in. We will try to show preference for theistic callers or people who disagree about something or who have a different perspective, so that we can, have a better discussion than simply saying, "Hey, you guys are great. I love watching the show." So if that's all you're calling about, thanks, we appreciate it. But send an email, and if you don't get through today or you don't want to get through, you can always email tv@atheist-community.org. That email goes to myself, the co-host, some of the people behind the scenes. We get way too much email to answer all of it, but we do read all of it. If you want to make sure that it gets through the spam filters, you can put AETV or NPR in the subject line, and that'll make sure that it gets through the spam filter so people can actually read it. We really appreciate all the email we've been getting, especially worldwide, now that the show's available to view on the internet. You can watch it live and streaming each Sunday from 4:30 to 6 p.m. Central. That's GMT minus 6, I think. So for all of you out there, you can sort it all out. We have new tiny URLs. There's tinyurl.com/TAE show. That'll link to the Ustream version of the program. Then there's also tinyurl.com TAE studio, and that is a direct link to the Channel Austin stream, which is higher quality but takes a bit more buffering. So it's your choice as to which one you watch. They're both going to be delayed. So if you're watching live over the stream and you decide to call in, please turn off the volume on your stream, or just turn it off entirely. Focus on the phone, and that'll help remove some of the echoes and distractions that people get when they're trying to call into the program while watching the stream. In addition to this program, the ACA also sponsors a bi-weekly internet audio podcast called The Nonprofits. You can find out more about the show by going to nonprofitsradio.com. That's PROPHETS, right there at the bottom of the screen. We were live yesterday for the first show of 2010, and yesterday featured Russell Glasser, myself, and Jeff D joined us. Dennis was out. We'll be back again in 2 weeks with Dennis Louvet as the regular host, resuming his duties. And you never know who's going to stop by, drop in. We'll get Jeff back whenever we can, as often as we can. This program, I host for 3 weeks, and then Russell hosts for a week. And then we also have 5 co-hosts that rotate through, which means these guys only get to be on once every 5 weeks, whereas I'm here 3 out of 4.
We just turn up and let you guys do all the work.
Yeah.
It's lovely. Yeah.
And since they don't get as much time, we're gonna drill through the rest of these announcements real quick.
Well, last Sunday I got into the Ustream chat for the very first time, and that was all kinds of fun.
Well, last week was a lot less painful because I went on and started tossing around the band hammer.
Yeah, I know. I saw you sort of wielding the loving mallet of
Yes.
correction, as you do. But it was it's a fun bunch in there, and it was great fun chatting with them while the show was going on. And boy, they really want red meat in the chat room. I'll
Yes.
tell you. They anytime, if you're an atheist thinking of calling the show today, we love to hear from you. But just be aware that you will be absolutely hated in the chat room because they want theists to call so that we can bloody our knuckles. So, so be aware that.
So in addition to the two programs, the ACA also sponsors a number of other events. I already mentioned the lecture series. There's also Atheist Happy Hour every Thursday at the Dog and Duck Pub beginning at around 7 o'clock or so. And after this program's over, we get together for dinner. Whatever that graphic is, that's crap.
That's
the wrong
the,
colors.
there we are.
There we go. Dinner at Threadgill's, 301 West Riverside Drive. The show's on until 6 o'clock. We'll be down there around 6:30. All of the ACA events are open to the public. Any atheist or atheist-friendly person who'd like to come down and join us is not only welcome, but encouraged to do so. But if you're coming down to preach, proselytize, or provoke, please don't. Just pick up the phone. We've already got what looks to be full lines, although they're getting me the information about who's on there.
Right.
And you can call in.
And also just want to mention that if you go to the Atheist Experience blog, Jen recently posted, the most recent post is a long list of secular charities that are currently involved in Haiti earthquake relief. And so if you've been wanting to look into that and do your part. So that's atheistexperience.blogspot.com. And of course, related to the Haiti earthquake, which has been absolutely horrible, the one bright ray of light that has come out of all of it has been, I think, the ultimate downfall of Pat Robertson.
Although, he's going to keel over any day. So
Sure,
it's not
but
gonna
I
be
mean,
much
it's lovely just to see a man like that get the absolutely universal hate that he has deserved for so long.
And as I was getting ready to mention, there's the Blogspot link that Martin linked to, and you actually jumped in like a half second before
Oh,
me.
you were going to say all that.
No, not all that.
Okay.
So I'm really glad you did. But we added a new tiny URL that I put together this morning, and it's tinyurl.com/sharehaiti, ShareHaiti, and that links to the Share charity work from Center for Inquiry that's going specifically to benefit victims of the disaster in Haiti. You can visit the ACA website, www.atheist-community.org, for more information about the Atheist Community of Austin, what we've got on our calendar, scheduled events including blood drives, street cleanup, food drives, parties, lectures, anything that we happen to do, we try to put it up on the calendar. And there's also a frequently asked questions page there for people who would like the answers to questions that we have frequently been asked.
That's
Why are you an
great use
atheist?
for
What
a
do you
fact
believe?
page,
Yeah. We're on the cutting edge of the interwebs. We really know what we're doing.
I'll tell you what the kids are into these days.
So I tell you what we'll do. We'll just go ahead and let's just start taking calls.
Throw it open?
Let's go.
Hit the
So
button, sir.
here we are, 8 minutes, 23 seconds into the show. Ryan from St. Louis, you're live.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Martin.
How you doing?
I'm actually happen to be a theist, so
Oh,
that's
good.
news for all the.
Well, the chat room's very happy right now. So what's up?
I'm also a big fan of the show, though, because I don't know. I find your arguments are generally rational and.
Can we turn that down?
thought out.
The speaker in here is insanely loud with regard to the phone.
Keep talking though. You're
Go
fine.
ahead, Ryan.
You're doing fine. We're just working through sound issues. Go ahead.
Sure. There's one thing I have a disagreement with. Are you familiar with the God hypothesis by Richard Dawkins?
I think you mean the God Delusion, the book.
Yeah, well,
God delusion?
it's like a chapter of the book where he asserts that the existence of God should be treated as any other scientific hypothesis should be treated.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we're familiar with that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I disagree with that. I think I was basically wondering what your guys' take was on that, because I think
He's right.
I think he's right. Yeah.
natural being.
He's right. Here's the reason for that, and it's something that Tracy's covered quite a bit, and better than probably any of the rest of us. And that is, it depends on your definition of a God. If your God is something that does not in any way affect reality, then okay, there's no way to test for it. There's no way to verify it at all. But if your God manifests in reality in any way, if your God can answer prayers, heal people, make the sun stop, raise people from the dead, if your God can do anything remotely like that, then that is something that is within reality, which is subject to scientific inquiry.
Okay, but not if it's in reality based on.
It doesn't matter what the source is.
Power.
No, it does not matter what the source is. The source for every new phenomenon that we identify has an unknown source most of the time.
Yeah.
That does not exclude it. We may not know what the source of something is, but we can still investigate and verify that the phenomenon is occurring. Now, it may be the case that you cannot get from this happened to therefore it was caused by something supernatural. In that aspect, you're correct. You can't verify the existence of the supernatural. What you can do is verify the existence of the prevalence of the phenomena and the reliability of it. And it's been tested. The various claims about prayer and whatnot have been tested scientifically.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
But that just proves that particular prayer, did not elicit that particular result or whatever. That basically, think of if there was a supernatural being, he could, like an omnipotent being, he could make it so that his discovery would be impossible.
Sure.
But still could interact with the real world.
No.
Yeah. See, right there, that's sort of contradictory. It's part of the whole notion of omnipotence is internally contradictory. It contradicts itself.
Well, we don't have to go all the way down.
We don't have to do that.
Interacting with reality.
But the point is, that is a specific example of it. You could say, God can completely make any sort of direct evidence of his existence completely impossible to detect. And yet, if he is having direct effects on the real world that we can see, and this is the God Christians believe in. They believe that they pray to God and he answers prayers, and these prayers have results in their lives. Then that's a lot like saying, well, you can. It doesn't really quite mesh that you can. Here's something that is doing something in the world, but you cannot look at that result and in any way study exactly what caused that result.
Well, let me do this a different way. What could God do that we could not test for?
Okay, like let's say while you're sleeping, God puts $1 million in your closet, and then when you wake up, he makes it disappear. And it actually happened.
Okay.
You can't test for it because he's.
How do you know it actually happened? How do you know it actually?
When you test for it.
Now, how do you know it actually happened?
Yeah, I mean, how would you have any way of knowing that at all?
Well, you wouldn't. That's
okay.
The whole.
Would you have any good justification for believing that it did happen?
No.
Okay. So
unless you for some reason wanted to believe that it happened for some reason.
That's not a good justification for believing something.
Well, why not?
Okay.
Well, it's not especially rational, that's all.
I mean, it's not always a good justification for believing something, but it could be.
No, it's never.
And what circumstance?
Simply desiring something is never.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Sorry?
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Only a what?
Sith.
Oh, yes, I am the Dark Lord. Are you going to turn into a prank call, or are we going to keep conversing?
Nah.
Okay. The thing is, I'm sorry to tell you that there are, in fact, absolutes, 3 logical ones, but I'm not going into the tag thing right now. I asked if you had any justification for believing it, and you admitted rightly that you don't. And then you said that unless you wanted to believe it. Well, okay, there are all kinds of things that somebody may want to believe. I couldn't give a rat's ass. What I care about is what is true and what is demonstrably true. And when I ask whether or not a belief is justified, I am by definition excluding simply the desire for it to be true, because that is not a rational justification for believing that something is likely to be true. That is simply a desire.
Yeah, and you could just as easily justify believing in anything at all if that were your sole justification for it.
I want there to be leprechauns who come in and do my laundry at night. That's a strong desire of mine. Is that it? Am I justified in believing that it's true? No. I may believe it's true, but that would be an irrational belief that lacks sufficient justification.
Okay, I mean, yes, you're bringing up good points here, but we're kind of divulging from what I originally said, in that a supernatural being is untestable. You can't use the laws of science.
A supernatural being.
You can say that I reject reject the notion of a supernatural being, or you can say a supernatural being is impossible, or you could say something like that. But if you're considering a supernatural being, then you can't use any type of scientific test or experiment to discover its existence.
Yes and no.
Well, here's
The supernatural is by definition outside the realm of scientific investigation, which is why
Exactly.
I brought up at the beginning, does this entity manifest itself in the natural world in any way? If it can affect and manifest within reality to affect change, then that is something that we can observe. And you said, well, there's a way, God may be able to do stuff that we can't identify. And I asked for an example, and no offense, Ryan, but you came up with one of the stupidest possible examples that represents a God that is completely indistinguishable from a God that doesn't exist. A God who, while I'm asleep, puts $1 million in my closet and then removes it. That action is completely indistinguishable from it never having been there, and there have been no God to put it there. What we want is for you to identify an action that a God could take that is identifiable in reality that we could not identify. And
Okay, I'll give you a better example then.
Inherently self-contradictory. Go ahead.
okay.
All right. Yeah, my example was bad. I admit that. How about, let's say when you die, this supernatural being takes your consciousness, your essence, whatever, and puts it in some supernatural place, and you continue your consciousness in a supernatural place, completely outside of what any scientific analysis could detect.
How is that any different from your $1 million in the closet?
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
this is something that you will experience.
No.
You will experience.
no, this is
Hypothetically, I'm not saying it's
Yeah,
true.
right. It's hypothetical. You are simply speculating upon, well, what if this particular magical thing happened after your death?
If.
But what I asked for was an example of something that manifests in reality.
Yeah.
Something that happens in a supernatural realm after you're dead is not something that manifests in reality.
You know,
Okay.
again, I mean,
Agreed.
something that, let me give you an example, and you can argue with me whether or not this can be tested. It is the belief of theists around the world that this universe that we're in exists because of divine fiat. A God, a supernatural being, willed it into existence. So you have all of natural reality existing at all because a supernatural being wanted it to and made it happen. So that is, when Dawkins says, this is why God claims should be tested, just like any other scientific claim, this is what he means. It is the claim of theists that everything exists, anything exists at all, because of the will of God, a supernatural being, because of the actions of God, a supernatural being.
Okay, well,
So-
you're sort of supporting my point even more, because I'm saying...
But the only
yes,
examples
you
you're
can
coming up-
reject that. You can reject that on hand, but you can't use science to prove that.
No.
Why-
Okay,
no.
this is
I want to
something.
prove it.
This is
Right.
something completely different.
No.
Now you're saying you can't disprove God with science. You know what? You're absolutely correct,
Well-
and nobody gives a damn because that's not where the
Yeah.
burden of proof is. What Dawkins is saying, and Martin was absolutely correct to make sure that he phrased it this way, was that science can investigate God claims. That's it. Period.
Okay.
Because we are in the business, science is in the business of actually determining what is or isn't real. Now, the second that somebody's God is demonstrably real, now, then it becomes believable. And that is something that is theoretically possible for a supernatural God to exist, although I don't know how. I mean, that may actually be impossible, but hypothetically speaking, if there was a supernatural being who could affect reality, then it is possible that we could detect this.
I disagree.
Okay?
In what way?
And yet, theists around the world claim that this is true, and they claim that their God, one of the ways in which he does this, is to speak directly to people and give them prophetic insights into the future, which are testable and verifiable. If it doesn't matter whether it's a God, aliens, a transmission from somewhere else, if the source is unknown, but it's feeding me information and I can consistently pick winning lottery numbers, then we have a demonstrable phenomenon that has been demonstrated to scientific certainty. We may not be able to identify the source,
Exactly, that's the point. You may not be able to identify
Yeah.
the source, therefore you cannot say it's a supernatural source, so there cannot
I
be any
don't
evidence.
care, Ryan. Look, the point is, if I'm claiming I'm getting messages from Alpha Centauri and they are giving me winning lottery numbers, and we verify that this is actually occurring, that I am able to adequately predict, you are absolutely correct, and I've said this before on the show, I don't know, dozens of times, that we cannot positively identify the source of it. But what we can say is that my claim has been demonstrated and is justified. Now, if you accumulate a massive amount of evidence of a number of different claims, so there's a billion people who are claiming that God is giving them information, and each one of them is always right down the line. Now all of a sudden you approach the sort of rational belief in the causal area of the claim. We cannot absolutely confirm it. We can never absolutely disprove it. But we're talking about phenomenon in reality. We may not be able to properly, completely, scientifically identify the cause, but the aggregate claims of this source. It's one of the reasons why we look around the world at all these different religions that are making claims, and we can say that, you know what, they cannot all be right because they are, in many cases, mutually exclusive, but they can all be wrong. And when we investigate them, none of them can produce any phenomenon that stands up to anything better than results we'd expect from chance. But that doesn't need to be the case. It may be the case that one of these religions, let's say Mormons, for whatever reason, live better, happier, longer lives, are more productive, are able to predict the future, are healthier, they're immune from cancer, and we can demonstrate that, somebody who lived to be 30 and then converted to a Mormon, instantly there's no more cancer. All of a sudden, when you get evidence like that, the claims of Mormons become tenable. That is what we're talking about, and that is what Dawkins is talking about when he says that we can scientifically investigate and validate religious claims, God claims. Doesn't matter that we can't absolutely identify the source. It may be the case that that we, in the absence of being able to absolutely identify the source, we still can come up with enough information that we can say, okay, there is some source and we know something about it. In much the same way that in different fields of science, we don't have a complete understanding of the inner workings of the atom. And we may never. We may
or the human
continually
brain,
find
right?
smaller and smaller things, but we know it's real and we know how it works, and it can thereby make testable predictions.
And it bears remembering also that the entire intelligent design creationism movement, which is very much a Christian movement, very much a religious movement, as much as they like to deny it, because they think it will get them mileage in court cases that way. This is all about a bunch of theists attempting to refute evolution by making what they claim are scientifically supportable claims for intelligent design of life on Earth. In other words, it was not an evolutionary process, it was not an unguided process, there was a mind behind it and a plan behind it and an agenda behind it doing these things with deliberation. And so you have people who are very devout theists who are making these kinds of claims. And in a sense, Dawkins is really not saying anything that should be terribly controversial when you realize that, yes, the theists do this all the time. They do make these kinds of God claims. They say that they are scientific. As creationism itself has evolved, it went from biblical creationism, and then that ended up getting into trouble with the law, with the courts saying, no, it's constitutional problems. And so they tried to change the name. And one of the names in the many stages of creationism's development over the years has been scientific creationism. So these are Christians coming right out and saying, yes, our religious beliefs, our God is something that can be investigated scientifically. So, so Christians have been out there making this, a remark long before Dawkins did about how God should be testable. Because they're even, they're still trying to fight in the courts right now with intelligent design, saying, yes, here, it's provable, it's testable. It's intelligent design, and this is our God.
So let me ask you this, since you seem to be in one of the weirdest positions that I can possibly imagine. You self-identify as a theist, and you call in thinking, trying to argue that Dawkins' statement's wrong, and I would agree that Dawkins' statement would have been wrong if he would have said we can positively identify a supernatural source or positively disprove a supernatural source, but that's not what he said or what we've said or what anybody that I'm aware of has said. But you're in this position where you claim to believe something that you simultaneously claim cannot be testable. It cannot be tested. What possible reason could you have for believing a claim that you don't think can manifest in reality in any way that is identifiable? And how, by the way, did you come by this information in the first place?
I didn't really understand the question.
Okay.
Okay.
If there is a God, which you believe that there's a God that is supernatural, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How did you come by that information, and what reason do you have for believing it?
I don't really know how I came by it. I think it's kind of a comforting belief for me.
Oh,
And
okay.
I don't know the psychology behind it, but somehow I believe it.
Okay.
Basically,
when
you have the opinion that you want your beliefs to reflect reality.
Yes, and you
And
don't.
I want my beliefs to reflect reality in almost all instances, but I'll make a few exceptions.
Okay, thank you. That's probably the most honest, and it cuts right to the chase. If you don't care enough about whether or not your beliefs accurately reflect reality, then that explains why you're willing to believe something that isn't justified.
And if you're freely willing to admit that it is something that brings you comfort, then that's at least honest too. But
I can explain. Why I don't think like that and why I would prefer that nobody did, but it's your brain and you can pollute it with whatever nonsense makes you feel good.
You say like nonsense, but
It is.
I bet if you knew me on a personal level,
hey,
I'm not
we
judging
would never
you.
talk about.
Okay,
Ryan,
Ryan,
we're sure
you're a
you're
completely normal person.
Ryan, we're sure you're a
I believe when you
fantastic
die,
guy.
something else happens.
Ryan,
we're sure you're a fantastic guy.
and we're
That's
not saying you're crazy. I'm not judging your entire personage, your entire life history, or your entire value.
No.
If I thought that, I'd have hung up on you 10 minutes ago. I'm saying that you believe something which you admit you have no good reason for doing so, and your only justification is that it makes you feel good. First of all, I don't really believe you.
But not only that, not only does it make me feel good, but I don't think it'll have any repercussions.
Then you're wrong. You don't think that believing something that is not true has any repercussions at all?
Not always. Usually.
No.
Usually
There's your qualifier. There's your qualifier again. Not always. I fully admit that if you're sitting at home in the bathtub, whether or not you believe in God probably isn't going to have any dire consequences. What false belief you have isn't going to affect it while you're asleep. I'm asking you, do you think that it has no consequences, which is what you started saying?
I don't think it has any negative consequences on my life.
Really?
Or the life of anyone else.
Really? Mm-hmm. You don't think?
I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
You don't? Okay. So here's the way. Go ahead. I'm
okay.
sorry.
No, I'm just saying. It sounds to me like you don't particularly care one way or the other, and that's what's baffling me about this. I mean.
Well, why you didn't care?
Yeah, but that's what I want to understand. That's what I really want to understand is that you, as Matt has pointed out, always have these qualifiers to the statements you make. I don't think that these beliefs have negative consequences in most cases. I want my beliefs to reflect reality in almost all cases, but apparently there are some cases in which reflecting reality isn't really necessary.
It's a complicated world.
I just don't really understand why you have that sort of lack of caring.
How is "it's a complicated world" a response?
Yeah.
To what Martin was just saying.
What does that have to? Of course, it's a complicated world, but that seems to me that you would want to have more understanding of reality and not less.
Well, basically, I have a complete understanding of reality.
Well,
really?
Well, then
a couple things, just
I think that might be part of the problem there. You want to know what?
I believe that you don't.
You want to know what one of the negative effects of admittedly believing something for which you have no justification is that every belief becomes a part of your thinking processes, and it allows you to make statements like, "I have a complete understanding of reality."
No, that was not really what I meant. I meant like compared to any other atheist or whatever.
Well, okay. I rest my case.
I would disagree that you have demonstrated that today, but
I probably know nothing. I mean, we really know nothing if you think about it.
Well, I wouldn't go to that other extreme either.
From a
But
standpoint, we know things, but
Yeah, all right, are you going to ever stop speaking in platitudes and get back to the reason?
Yeah. See, here is what we are thinking is the sum total of the negative consequences of your not caring whether or not what you believe is actually true, because you are all over the map. You're like, your mind seems like it's a big snooker table with balls bouncing all over the place. Oh, it matters, but then sometimes it doesn't really. And I have an understanding of all of these things, but then when you think about it, we really don't know anything. You don't have any focus to your thoughts. It doesn't seem your whole map of the world just bounces around.
Ryan, you know anything about writing any computer code software?
No, not really.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me give you just a quick, abstract, not perfect thing. Let's say that you were writing this, and one of the things that you do when you're writing code is that you can have a bunch of predefined constants at the beginning. And you may have a number of functions that then reference those constants at different times. And the constants could be anything from, x equals 3 to the number of apples in this pile is 10 to the speed of light in a vacuum, etc. And different functions will reference different ones of those to determine when I throw this apple, relative to the speed of light, etc. You're correct that having a false constant in your program is not necessarily going to affect every one of those functions. But if it's used anywhere in any one of those functions, then it can produce a sort of cascade of errors because functions become interdependent. Mm-hmm. For you to sit there, this is the only reason that I keep harping on this. The problem is that you think that believing something that feels good, that may ultimately be false, doesn't have any negative consequences.
No. I completely disagree with that. Completely disagree with what? The things that I just reiterated that you had previously said? Nothing negative. No, I said there are few exceptions where believing something false may have no negative effects on your life and may even have positive effects on your life.
Name two.
If you believe in that there's some afterlife when you die, not necessarily anything specific, but if you believe in some afterlife, when you're on your deathbed, you might be a little more happy than if you believed that there was no afterlife. That's
okay.
one small example.
Here's the thing. You can pick any false belief and construct a scenario in which it produces a positive effect. Heroin makes people feel really good for a while. Believing that there's an afterlife may make you a little more peaceful on your deathbed. My question is, that's not the only effect that belief has. First of all, every false belief allows you the predisposition to accept more false beliefs. But we don't have to go near the slippery slope. My thing is the belief in an afterlife is fundamentally immoral because it cheapens this life. My belief that when I'm dead puts me in a position where I need to live right and do things right the first time. Where if I don't treat somebody right, I don't get a second chance in an afterlife to make up for it. I need to make amends for it now. And dealing with reality on those terms that are based on truth and the best conclusions we can make based on the best evidence available is demonstrably a better way to live. Having your internal worldview more consistent with reality is the key. Not usually, always. Yeah. Because we're talking about decision making. If I'm going to make decisions that affect what I do in reality, then the more consistent my internal view of reality is with actual reality, the better. And the more divergent my internal view is from reality, the worse.
And let's be honest, Ryan, the only examples you're able to come up with these exceptions that you want to exist are simple, like emotional placebo effects. Oh, but it would make a person feel better to entertain this belief for a little while. Sure. Whereas listen to what Matt's describing. Matt's describing things that have lifetime consequences in terms of how you interact with your community, with one another, with people in your lives, how you behave, how you take responsibility for your actions and the things that you do. If something you do ends up causing harm, you have to deal with that. You have to take that responsibility now. All of these things, build upon one another. And you keep wanting to say, yes, well, that's only the case usually. But the only examples that you're able to give us don't seem to be terribly meaningful.
99.999% of the time.
Okay, and if you're only concerned about being 99% accurate in your view of reality, well, that's your problem.
Yeah.
Some of us would prefer to get as close to 100 as possible. And the way to do that is to care whether or not your beliefs are true and to never say, I'm okay with making an exception for this one because it feels good.
Like the saying, ignorance is bliss.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes ignorance is bliss.
But see, there you go.
I agree.
There you go. That's the only example you're able to come up with is that, it'll put a little doe-eyed, empty-headed smile on a person's face to believe something that's false. It's just the emotional appeal you're defending this with. You have really nothing else to defend it with. And since you, again, admit, well, okay, maybe it's 99.999999, then why do you really care about the 0.000001? I mean, just go ahead and accept the common sense that, yes, having a worldview that's consistent with reality is best. In all cases, as much as, it's where whatever exceptions might exist are so minute as to not make a difference. And therefore really shouldn't be thought of as existing. I mean...
I don't know what else to tell you, Ryan, and
Yeah.
we gone for like 25 minutes or so at this call.
Okay.
And the thing is that I think we're as close to an understanding as we can, and that is that you've said that you would mostly like to have your view consistent with reality, but you're willing to make exceptions because you don't see the harm in it. And I do. And someday I hope you do.
Yeah.
And I hope the whole world decides to care more about whether or not their view of reality is accurate.
And there are sometimes more things in life that are more important things in life than just feeling good.
Now, that said, I certainly don't put you in the category of batshit crazy person who's trying to take over the lives of everybody else.
Yes.
If you were, like I said, I'd have hung up on you 20 minutes ago.
Yes.
That's not the case at all. And I greatly appreciate the call and the chance to discuss this.
All right. Well, nice talking to you guys.
Thanks, Ryan.
Bye.
We got Chris in Greenville.
Been very patient.
Thank you. Thanks for waiting. Hello?
Chris? Chris, you're on.
Okay. I called a couple of weeks ago, and I mentioned the Big Bang and how something came from nothing or whatever. And I did some research on it, and I looked up some theories and stuff like that. And you guys told me that the Big Bang does not say that something came from nothing or whatever. But there was this particular lecture from Lawrence Cross who was giving a lecture for the Atheist Allegiance International.
I've seen it.
And basically the whole lecture is about how quantum fluctuations in empty space, or essentially nothing, will produce a universe. And talking about how the universe is flat and the future of the universe.
The problem is that what physicists mean when they say nothing is not nothing. It's not nothing in the colloquial sense that most people talk about. That's the difference. And anybody who actually watches Krauss's lecture and still has the simplistic colloquial understanding that he's talking about something coming from nothing in that sense, I don't know what to tell you. Krauss explains it better than I could, better than almost anybody I've ever seen. And yet if you watch that and still come out with the physicists are saying it's something comes from nothing, you missed something fundamental in the definitions. It's not that kind of nothing.
Yeah, I mean, a singularity is something.
Well, the singularity is a mathematical,
right?
But and I don't really want to get into this in gross detail because it doesn't matter. It doesn't have any relevance to atheism or theism. It's an interesting bit of science.
I think that it does have like a lot to do with either with atheism or deism or theism or something like that, because it sort of gives you a perception about the universe, that most people don't have, or they don't really.
Okay. Until this past century, there was no such thing as Big Bang Theory. Was there theism and atheism?
Yes.
Right. Well, it would.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
Whether or not you believe in a God is not contingent upon whether or not science has a particular explanation for some particular phenomenon or area of understanding. And I'm not. This is a subject that I like. I'm just not an expert on it, and I certainly don't want to waste a whole bunch of time defending it when it's not relevant to the point. Because one of the things is that for example, a lot of the creationists would accept Big Bang cosmology would say, well, that's just the way God did it. Okay, great. And the other people, and the atheists would say, okay, this is what science has to say about the origin of the universe, and there's nothing in there that posits or needs to posit the existence of a creator or any type of God or anything that would qualify. And you're at this impasse again. So to me, the relevance of Big Bang cosmology on the issues of theology is no more to the point than the scientific explanation for magnetism or the germ theory of disease.
Well, it's like, in Blind Watchmaker, Dawkins pointed out that evolution was certainly not necessary for atheism or vice versa, but evolution was one of those scientific advances that made it at least possible for atheists to have some degree of intellectual fulfillment behind, because you're right, there was atheism long before evolutionary science came along, just like there was plenty of it before modern physics. But what we find as more and more science comes along to show us how our universe works, it raises more questions, and it keeps pushing supernatural explanations farther and farther away. We no longer need to explain the spoilage of food in the kitchen at night, which they used to have to do in the olden days. You'd leave food out and then it would spoil after a while, and they would think that imps or pixies or fairies or whatever would come out and mess with the food and cast spells upon it to make it spoil. These things, supernatural, magical explanations just become less and less necessary. So it's just a happy accident that I think a lot of science is simpatico with non-theistic worldviews, but you still get a lot of people either way. You get Christians who accept evolution by the same rationale that Matt just described. Well, that's just how God did it. And Genesis is all metaphor and poetry.
You see, I've recommended that particular lecture from Krauss to theists. Some Christian apologist or whatever will send me an email and say, well, you all think that something comes from nothing. Well, first of all, that has nothing to do with atheism or theism. I mean, it is completely separate. But I'll recommend that they go watch Krauss's a lecture from the AAI convention, which I thought was brilliant and explained things. I mean, it's not even worth it for me to even start talking about the subject, really, in comparison. And they'll come back and say, see, he just said it. And it's clear that they weren't paying attention, because I know that there's a point in there where Krauss himself explains that what physicists mean by nothing is not the colloquial nothing. And I'm not the guy to explain it.
Well, I guess I'll kind of let you guys take another call or whatever, because I'm not really familiar with the whole concept of nothing according to what you guys are talking about. So,
okay.
I guess thanks for talking about it. So I guess I'll
thanks,
keep
Chris.
watching the
I
show.
appreciate the call, Chris.
Appreciate it.
I've been hoarse for days. I'm like,
Yeah, and I'm getting there.
yeah. Who do we want to?
So we got Kevin in Nashville.
Hello.
Kevin?
How are you, Kevin?
Hi.
All right. How are you guys?
We're fine.
Hey. I've heard you say bad things about Pat Robertson.
Yes.
Because of his comments, but I mean, you've read the Old Testament,
Yes.
and you've read
Got one
about
right
Sodom and Gomorrah and the Great Flood. That's pretty nasty stuff. So it's really just a little extrapolation he's doing, isn't it?
Well,
If you believe that crap, you'll believe, the occasional earthquake or hurricane.
Well, I'm not saying, I'd never
yeah.
say that Pat is being inconsistent with his theology. I'm saying he's a dick.
yeah. I mean, it's just.
I mean, he's consistently a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that.
And that's,
but, I mean,
that's
you can see his point. You can see his point of view.
I can see it in the same way that I can see a mass murderer's point of view.
Yeah.
It's a sick and twisted mind that's doing something that it shouldn't be doing. He's desperately in need of help, and at this point, the only help I think he can get would be to go ahead and kick the bucket.
76. I mean, it's past time anyway.
Okay. All right, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. Now, well, we talk about people, saying things that are rude, insensitive, hateful, wrong, whatever. It's when you take your particular religious view and say, "Look, you guys made a pact with the devil, and now God's coming to get you." And it's just, it's internally consistent, but it has no corollary in reality. touching back on Ryan's call earlier.
Yeah.
This is what happens when too many of your beliefs are no longer consistent with reality. And last week on the show and yesterday we talked about it, so I'm not going to hammer out too much. Brett Hume had made comments about Tiger Woods, saying he's a Buddhist, and I don't think that faith has the kind of forgiveness that he needs. So Tiger, I'd recommend that you become a Christian. To me, that's almost as bad as what Pat Robertson said.
Right, because no Christians ever cheat on their wives.
Well, the only reason it's not quite as bad is because he's perhaps just going after one person. But I'll say this, Brett Hume's correct in a different sense, and I mentioned it yesterday, and that is that from the public's perspective, there's nothing better that Tiger could do than apologize and say he found Jesus. All of a sudden, the entire scandal's forgiven. That is within the culture of the United States, where you've got predominantly Christian. Finding Jesus is your get-out-of-jail-free card. And that's in that sense, Hume was right. I even hate calling him Hume because it disparages the memory of better Humes.
But yeah, it's just like, Hume's statement was just like Ryan's claim about the $1 million in the closet, right? Well, how can Brett Hume know that? I mean, how is that testable at all? That was just one of those many statements that religionists make that are smug, but not based on anything. But they just don't care because it jives with what everyone else already believes. But you're right. The whole get out of jail free card. That's that's not a figure of speech. I mean, if you're in jail and you do religious training, you get time served for that.
Yeah.
Yes, because apparently, so that.
All right, Kevin, we're gonna see how many calls we can get through today.
Okay.
And see how many of them. Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We got John in Philly.
Hey, what's up?
How you doing?
How you doing, guys?
We're
Listen,
good.
I've been busy today. I'm sorry. Go ahead. What were you saying?
He just said we're good. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. I was busy today. I didn't get a chance to catch most of the show. I didn't know you guys had already talked about it, but I just wanted to say that I don't usually get political. I'm usually pretty lazy when it comes to this person said this on the air, and I kind of go, so what? But when I heard about what Pat Robertson said, I kind of got sick to my stomach, and it kind of drove me to look for his email address, and I think the best I could do was go on the 700 Club prayer line, and I actually sent in a prayer request for Pat Robertson's soul.
So what to happen to it? what did you pray exactly?
If he had one,
Oh.
I kind of just prayed. I don't pray. I'm not religious.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm just being
Well, when you're
polite.
sending in a prayer request, you're asking somebody else to do the work for you anyway.
Yeah, pray.
But yeah.
But I just,
I'd really like to get better, but I'm a lazy bastard, so could you pray for me?
every time sometimes I watch 700 Club, just for shits and giggles.
Oh yeah, I used to watch TBN for the same reason.
Yeah, it's great. Like he just stands there with his squinty eyes and just prays for some guy's broken foot across the country to magically heal in Jesus' name.
It's a window into another world, isn't it?
It is. Well, I realize that people actually watch this and they listen to this man, and that's why I'm very thankful for programs like this. It really.
This is the same guy.
We're healing you now,
Yes.
John. We're healing you.
This is the same guy who tried to blame 9/11 on atheists and lesbians and abortionists, and the same guy who blamed Hurricane Katrina on gays. Although, as Jeff T pointed out,
And San Francisco had a big earthquake back in '89, and I remember watching him.
he was alive in 1889.
No. Yes, actually.
Probably.
Just getting going. This is all par for the course for Robertson.
And honestly, at this point, it almost feels like desperate grasping for attention. The final, he's like one of those fish that you finally drug up on shore, and just you think it's settled down, and you're sure that it's dead, and then when you reach down to grab it, it starts flopping again. That's what Pat Robertson's doing. He is a flopping little piece of crap.
Well, do you guys remember? I think it was a year ago when he claimed that he could leg press 2,000 pounds.
Yeah. Yes.
And then
Yeah.
and started releasing his own special exercise drink blend stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but then he had some sort of heart complaint, right? I mean, he had something to do with.
It's what happens when when God makes your food instead of doctors.
Well, here's what I did in response to Pat's whole thing, because I just decided to have fun with this. I created a page on Facebook. It's called We Condemn Pat Robertson, and as of me driving to the studio today, it's got something like 2,800 members, and it's probably up over 3,000 now. So.
That was you.
Yes, that was me.
See,
and,
I keep getting invites to that, and because there's so many people that have already, friended me on Facebook.
I
just click ignore straight in the line. I don't even see it. So if you invited me to something on Facebook and I didn't join.
See, I did that for that very reason.
It's not an affront. I just bam, because I can't fill up my page with that much.
There's either somebody who has made a Pat Robertson voodoo doll that he's selling on eBay, and with the proceeds to go to Haiti relief, and the auction right now is up over $500 for this horrible, ugly little doll. And but the people.
So it's accurate.
Yeah, right, right down to the frizzy hair and the Bible and the stiff posture and the And my only thing is, I get it, but it needs to be bigger so you can stick more pins in the son of a bitch. But.
My thing,
I'm just loving all this Robertson abuse. It's great. I mean, it's just
really
coming from
fired up
everywhere.
over this.
No one likes this man anymore. It's wonderful.
Sick. Thanks a lot for the call, John. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I made the comment yesterday that from the standpoint of a slave, you have the Christian God advocating slavery. Who else are you going to make a deal with? Hey, devil. Can you get me out of this? These Christians are here enslaving me. Can you help me out? Well, who wouldn't?
Right.
Now, obviously,
but then,
it's all
as
nonsense,
the devil himself has pointed out in a letter to the editor that's been widely circulated on the internet, he's like, look, if they made a deal with me, they wouldn't have 80% poverty in that country. That's not my style. Haiti would look like frickin' Dubai if they'd made a deal with me. Come on. So... No. So Satan doesn't appreciate the bad press.
Did you have a note on one of those or something?
No, I didn't, but I think old Jaffa's been holding for a while.
We got Jaffa in Bethlehem. How are you?
Hey guys, how are you?
Thanks for waiting.
Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Kind of ironic, the name of the city, but my question today was.
Now wait, is it Jaffa or Jaffa?
It's Jafar, Jafar.
Oh,
Jafar.
They left off a letter. Thanks.
Even spelled.
Jafar. Yeah.
Okay.
Tons of people pronounce it Jafar. I start up a new semester tomorrow. It's probably going to happen again. Whatever.
That's all right.
But yeah, I'm a junior pre-med major at Lehigh University, and on Tuesday I start up a class with the infamous Michael J. Behe. And I was wondering, and this is irreducible complexity, testified in court, we all know him, that guy. And I'm taking that course. It's my last semester as a pre-med. I'm pretty much have med school lined up. But what I want to do is I want to be able to challenge him on some of the ideas that he might throw in there about intelligent design, even though technically he's not supposed to. It's going to come up. But at the same time,
I don't know.
We don't know it. I mean, we don't know what his class is like. So.
Well, right, but my question is, how do you think that I could be able to challenge him on this without possibly jeopardizing my academics in that class?
Yeah, we're not the guys to ask.
First of all, we got no scientific expertise in the area, but the other thing is we don't know what he may or may not bring up. It depends on what he says. I couldn't possibly give you the best response. What I will say is that if he raises anything that deals with irreducible complexity, something that's not part of the curriculum, not part of science, not part of reality, it seems to me that one of the best things you could do is to not confront him directly and not disrupt his class, but to go talk to the department advisor about this and mention that, I was under the impression that I was actually going to be taking a real science class. And I get in here, and he starts talking about irreducible complexity.
But I'm sure they know all about Behe down there at Lehigh.
But I'm sure that he's
the
also...
faculty has actually issued a public statement, which is something unprecedented.
That was the old faculty. He's moved.
Right. So, wow. Yeah.
Take really good notes and be prepared. Be prepared to share them.
What's the name of the course?
It's physical biochemistry.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we don't know if he'll bring it up or anything ID related at all. It could just be like nothing but the, a primer, basic facts on that. So,
all right then. Well, yeah, I'll take a bunch and take notes. I might call in next week after I get a feel for the course, or if anything momentous happens relating to his vacuous BS, to put it polite.
Yeah. To be fair,
Call up.
I'm clearly no fan of Behe, but there are, and I'm no fan of Francis Collins, but if Collins was teaching a course on genetics somewhere, I wouldn't automatically go in and assume that he's going to bring his evangelical Christian ideas into it any more than I would expect P.Z. Myers to talk about his atheism in his classes. I know that he doesn't. It just doesn't come up. And so you may very well take a course where it never comes up. I mean, you're there to learn, he's there to do a job. Yeah, he may, if somebody else raises it, a student raises it, and then he talks about it, that may be different. But yeah, take good notes. There's a decent chance. I mean, that nothing goes wrong.
Yeah. And if you just want basic information to counter IC and some of these other intelligent design ideas, you could do a Google search for Kenneth Miller, Irreducible Complexity, search all of those together.
I asked him about this on Darwin Day back in when he came to Philly.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, and he said that apparently at Brown, the biochem PhD students that take Behe's class know their biochemistry very well, and they're just fine.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much for taking my call, and you guys have a good rest of the evening. All right.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much. That's a good call.
Yeah, it's, the fact is that you live in a country where 80 roughly percent of the population believes something that, we don't. Which means probably 80% of the professors that you've had well, maybe not that high, because there is some negative correlation with not intelligence, education, sorry. But a significant portion of them have probably believed all kinds of stuff, and your science teachers probably believed things, and even disbelieved things that they taught you. The thing about religious belief is that people are particularly good, often they're particularly good, at compartmentalizing it, keeping it entirely separate. It doesn't, like when Ryan called and said that, he didn't think this negative belief was going to have, any significant impact. Well, it's always going to have some impact, and there's always the potential for it to do tons of harm. But you can, through diligence, strive to keep that belief separate from other things. In much the same way that, using my coding example, you could just not use that particular constant in a different function.
Right, it just goes away.
It's a weird little way of, I don't know. To me, and this is one of the reasons why I briefly said that I didn't believe Ryan. I've said before that, when a theist tells me I believe this, I tend to believe them. I'll take them at their word. Now, more and more, depending on what the claim is, I find that I don't believe them. And what I believe is true instead is that, we've talked before about Dennett's belief in belief, but I think it goes beyond that, in that they're professing that they believe this and not actually accepting that it's true. They're kind of dipping their toe in the water to find out, I'd like to have a worldview that's consistent with reality. And one of the ways that I can do that is to compare my worldview to somebody else's. And where they differ, we can kind of go back and forth and see which one matches with reality. Now, if you actually care, that's as good a method as any. If you're in a position where this particular belief is so protected and segregated, then you're not going to benefit from it. You're going to be in a position that, for example, Ryan was in earlier, where he just had to say, I mostly want my beliefs to reflect.
Well, I think that happens a lot in Christian culture in America. If you've noticed how, Christians have Christian bookstores and Christian coffee houses and Christian music and Christian cable
side hugs
and Christian side hugs, and they have Christian bowling teams, like whatever and all of this serves to just sort of create a subculture within the mainstream of American culture, that allows them to just sort of isolate themselves.
And that'd be
I
fine.
think- and well,
if their subculture didn't leak out like a pollutant.
well,
into the rest
but
of
then
society.
you're talking about it's homeschooling plays into this culture where they essentially, depending upon how fundamentalist they are, the facts that they are teaching their kids are not necessarily facts, and then they expect these kids to go off into the world as adults and function. So but you're right. You get this sort of insular little community that just doesn't want to hear a whole heck of a lot else. And then I think that's why you really get the lashing out when people like us and Dawkins and Hitchens, and suddenly atheism becomes popular and they don't really know what to do about it. Yeah. And we see a lot of that reflected in some emails we get. Why do you guys even have a show? What do you care? I mean,
Yeah, and it sounds, Ken Ham said
we
something similar about
yeah.
the atheist convention that's going on in Australia.
Right.
Oh, a meaningless convention with a bunch of people talking about meaningless stuff without recognizing that it was all meaningless because they have a meaningless existence without God because there's no meaning. I don't think that word what you means what you think it means.
Yes, they don't. Yes, old Ken Ham just doesn't quite know what it means for something to have meaning.
Too funny. We got Sean in New Jersey. How are you?
Hey there, guys. Good evening.
How you doing?
All right. First off, I've got an observation of mine, which I find kind of interesting, which will lead into a question for you.
Okay.
I find it kind of funny and ironic that a lot of fundamentalist, creationist Christians who deny evolution almost basically have to profess that they're all fallen sinners, that they're these base and filthy creatures that deserve eternal punishment in hell. But as soon as you say that they're descended from primates, don't you call me a monkey?
Yeah.
That's way too much of an insult for me. Say that I deserve to go to hell, say that I'm a dirty sinner, but don't say that we share a common ancestor with apes. That's just going too far.
Yes, it's one of life's many little ironies that you encounter.
But going into that, as far as Christianity's concept of sinners and what we deserve and how low we all are, I was wondering if you think that might point towards a non-human authorship. If religion and Christianity is really just a human construct, then why would we portray ourselves as so low and so worthy of damnation, so filthy? Wouldn't we build ourselves up as great?
No. Because that doesn't benefit the religion. Building individuals up as great benefits the individual. Tearing individuals down and saying that the religion is what can save you, that's what benefits the religion.
Well, so then does that... A lot of people always say that a big function of religion is to show exhibit control over lower over people who believe it. It's a great way for kings to rule over people, and it's a great way to control people.
Yeah, but it doesn't control people in like the George Orwell 1984 sense. It doesn't do it overtly. It does it through this careful sort of manipulation of a person's own attitudes, right? Makes them do the work, right? What Christianity does through all of this talk about sin and original sin and how fallen we are, but don't worry because God loves you and He sent Jesus, etc., etc., etc. This is all about tearing down the self-esteem of the individual in order to reconstruct it in such a way that the religion is now at the center of that self-esteem.
Yeah, extreme fundamentalist Christians in particular, but fundamentalists who have this type of view, they are the battered wives of religion. They are the, he really loves me, I'm just not, that was my fault, I'm just good enough. And what this does is it benefits the institution or individual that's in control by tearing down and belittling the other individual. And I guess it's just that battered spouses and not battered wives, because evidently there's some guys in that position too.
Yeah, somewhere, yeah. Well, I guess my question then is, well, then why was it like that to begin with? You say what benefits the religion, but man created the religion. So why wouldn't from the very beginning man just be using it as instead of a tool to break himself down to only then build himself up, to just build himself up in the first place? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because
Well, religion.
I can't.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say because the Christian faith took many centuries to evolve into what it is right now. I mean, when you hundreds and hundreds of years, and throughout this entire process, you began to get. It went from just I guess if we want to go ahead and take for the sake of argument that all this stuff happened. It went from Jesus and his disciples all the way up to now a very big church with its own politics, and then getting and then all of this comes into play, and then suddenly there are armies that the church supports, and it becomes a big political movement, and this all takes time to develop. So something could start out being entirely benign, and then get corrupted, and then turn into something really horrible that's completely contrary to what it used to be. I saw an editorial cartoon some years ago, back when all of the televangelism money scandals were happening with was it Jim Bakker, Jimmy Swaggart, and this, that, the other, right?
His was sex.
Yeah. Well, it was sex, money, just corruption, and what happened was, I think Falwell's group was going to take over Bakker's when Bakker ended up going to jail, and then Falwell came out and said, "Oh, I'm disgusted by all this," and so. I saw an editorial cartoon at the time that was basically all of these, fat men in business suits, in a big corporate setting, said "God Co." on the wall, and and they're all looking at spreadsheets and charts and graphs and what have you, and and on the phones, and there's 20 of them, and then in this corner of the room, like Jesus, looking all meek with his little shepherd staff, walks in, and one of the guys yells at him, says, "How the hell did you get in here?" Right? I mean, it's just sort of something could. Yeah, so something could start out and be entirely benign, and then just and then it takes on a political life of its own and becomes bad.
Especially if someone.
And then if there's dogma involved, then that really makes the political reality of it just even more hardcore. It's just, So.
Okay, that's a very interesting insight. I appreciate it. And just real quickly, you guys, I wasn't going to bring it up. Mentioned it. The Christian side hug. I couldn't help but notice. And I was wondering if you guys thought that was real.
Yes.
There's one real and one that was a parody of the real one.
The Christian side hug, the original thing was real.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess the practice of Christian side hugging, but I assume that you were referring to the
original
kind of
rap song was real at a youth event for a real church.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I thought might have been the case at first also, but afterwards I saw what I thought were some legitimate interviews. Now, maybe it wasn't. I wasn't sure. Which were saying how it was parody, that it was actually kind of Christians maybe poking fun a little bit at themselves for some kind of.
Okay, then they're just as bad at that as they are at discerning reality. I've seen plenty of parodies of their side hug that were side-splittingly funny, but the first one, it did not have the ring of parody, and you don't get up at a megachurch as part of a series of songs and messages for your youth group and say something that you don't mean.
Okay, all right. Well, that's certainly a valid opinion. I would encourage you though to at least check it out online.
If I've been duped and it was never legit, I definitely would like to know.
Well, I wouldn't say you were duped, because I think you of all people certainly wouldn't put it past some fundamentalist organizations to have a song like that. It's certainly believable.
It's one thing. They did it. If they're going to then claim that it's parody, quite frankly, I'm more likely to believe that their claim that it was parody has come because they finally were shown how stupid it was.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I was thinking.
It's like when you say something, somebody goes, "What the hell's wrong with you?" Hey, man, I was just joking.
CYA.
That's what I think is more likely than.
That's certainly very possible. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
in either case, it's funny. It's funny. Period. That's what matters.
Regardless. All right. Well, I know there are a lot of calls after me, so I appreciate that you guys taking the time.
Sure. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
Have a good evening.
Boy. Oops. Wait a minute. I had it. There we go. Alex in Aberdeen.
Oh, hello. I wasn't expecting to be on so soon.
Oh, well. All right. You need another minute?
Oh, no, I'm fine.
Thanks for waiting.
I mainly just wanted to rant about William Lane Craig and how kind of unimpressive I find that he is, and how surprised I am that people don't do better against him. It kind of seems like all the relatively smart Christians on YouTube actually reference him quite a bit, and I just don't understand it.
Well, one thing is you're getting your information from YouTube.
Are there actually theologians that are held in higher esteem than him by apologists?
By apologists? I don't know. He might be at or near the pinnacle.
I think Plantinga is highly thought of.
Yeah, but he's so cerebral and useless that the average person in the pew is not going to understand what Plantinga has to say. I think Craig is probably one of the most revered. I'm with you. I don't find his arguments or claims particularly impressive, but I haven't seen enough debates with him. And the one problem with debates is that depending on who you talk to, who won, may be a little different.
Well, this is debating. I think is really it's theater. You know, when you get right down to it, it's style points and performance when you get right down to it. And I don't know of any case where a theist and an atheist have debated publicly. And usually what happens, you get the audience files in, and you have atheists on one side of the hall and theists on the other. And everyone pretty much goes out, thinking the same thing they thought and believing whatever they believed when they walked in. Except usually what you get in these cases is the theist, quite often correctly, crowing that he won the debate, simply because a lot of these folks, they're public speakers. Many of them are pastors. They do this for a living. And so you can get up there and sound really quite authoritative while spouting rubbish, and a lot of people will flock to you and be impressed by you.
It definitely seems like they kind of have a technique where both sides pretty much just kind of shoot out their spiel and kind of ignore the other guy, except a few minimal side points.
Yeah, you know why? Because, and this is not me just being funny to pick on them. A creationist can say more wrong things in 30 seconds than anybody else on the planet, and an accurate response to those statements might take 10 minutes or more, and that's just to barely scratch the surface.
Oh, that definitely seems to be the case with William Lane Craig, because he just totally spews out rapid fire, flim flam man style.
Yeah.
It's that public speaking thing again.
Collage of crap.
Yeah, and they can also just flat out lie because there's so much information, there's nobody fact-checking. So they can get up there and, for example, they're talking about the historicity of Jesus. It can be, I'm sure my opponent here is going to have lots of things to tell you about, but there's simply no way that he can overcome the fact that the Bible is the most accurately documented book of all time, and we have more copies of it than we have anything else, and we have more evidence for the existence of Jesus than we have for anything else, and we have more of this and more of that and this and that and this and that, and these all compare, and these are accurate, and there's only this many potential discrepancies with describable discrepancies, and rattle all that off. Well, what are you going to do when you get up there? Because he didn't offer any evidence. He offered nothing but a rapid-fire list of assertions. He didn't back any of it up. It's one of the reasons why people have asked, Matt, have you debated or are you interested in debate? Yeah, I'll do it. I have interest in that. But I have much more interest in discussion and informal debate, because I'm not concerned about winning the judge's vote or even finding out whose mind was changed, or who won by who changed the most minds out there. I just want to get the information out and change or correct or improve as many minds as we can, either way. So my on the show, that one of the benefits is that the second somebody says something that's wrong, I don't have to let them continue that list of assertions of this and this and this and this. I can, bam, you're on hold. No, please justify what you're saying. You can't do that in most of the debates.
Yeah, right, because a forensic debate has a formal structure.
Yeah.
And we have noticed, and we get this in email a lot, and down the years doing the television show, what theists like to do is exactly what Matt just said. They will bring this double armload of crap and dump it all in front of the skeptic, and the skeptic is expected to be the one to sort through it and deal with it piece by piece by piece by piece.
Well, I've definitely been impressed with Craig's blind them with bullshit flim flam man style, where he just rapid fire spews out.
Yeah, exactly, and he has
a name,
a
sentence, and then moves on. And
And he has it down to a science because he's just, or down to an art, you might say, just because he does it for a living. I mean, this is what the man does. He has all that experience public speaking, so he's fantastic at that, and he can just win on the style points.
And there are Craig devotees who've tried calling into the show. I mean, and they'll be like, what about Tertullian and Tacitus and Josephus and rattle off a whole bunch of stuff. And fortunately, I don't have to take it.
Yeah.
I can actually say, okay, let's go. Let's do this point by point. Let's justify what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's why what we try to do is, policy that you started up was, instead of just if a theist wants to call the program or wants to email us at the TV show address, just give us your best shot. Give us the best argument you have. Tell us exactly what you believe, why you believe it. Bring your A game, and leave the rest at home. Just give us the one thing that if you had to pare it all down, that you think justifies belief in God. Just give us that.
And I think I can say almost without fail, if the conversation is allowed to proceed, at some point, if it's allowed to proceed to the point where they either hang up or admit it, what they will end up admitting is that they have a faith-based position that they can't justify to somebody else. They feel justified in, but they can't justify it to somebody else. Boy, that doesn't make for very good debate.
Yeah, and those are the honest ones. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've had situations like that, but Tracy and I were duking it out with a woman who emailed us at one point. And this lady was immediately wanting to just dump the double arm load. And I said, no, stop. Just give us the one thing. Give us the best argument you have. And so she presented it, right? I think her thing was near-death experiences. Okay. So I presented the, standard refutation for the near-death experience claim. And what did she do? She's like, she did the usual thing of, okay, well, that didn't work. Here's my next thing.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I told you to bring the best thing you have. Now, if the best thing you have didn't work, you think the second best thing you have is going to work? So
only if the second, third, fourth, and fifth all work, which is unlikely.
So that's.
But yeah, I'm similarly.
It's kind of disappointing because I try, expose myself to theistic arguments, hoping that they'll have something that's at least thought provoking, and I'm kind of just shocked by how really pathetic his are. I mean, he does the argument for morality, which is just one of the weakest theistic arguments, and then he just turns it into an argument from consequences midway through. I mean, just. So many examples like that.
And he's in love with Kalam.
Yeah, that was pretty much the conflating, because the universe in its current form had a beginning, the universe had a beginning, and just excluding the possibility that the universe came from some sort of pre-existing.
Yeah, I am similarly unimpressed with Craig, and on the subject that you mentioned, or somebody mentioned, or maybe it was Martin, of doing the debate and then running around claiming victory. That's even happened on this show, where we had an apologist on who we had an extensive debate that most people.
Was it 2/3 of the episode?
The Matt Slick one that makes everyone groan.
And he asks a question, of if physical/conceptual is not a true dichotomy, then what's the third option? And made a big deal out of the fact that I couldn't actually label a third option, and then runs around claiming victory in the debate the next day on his forum. Meanwhile, when asked whether his God was physical or conceptual, Slick's answer was exactly the same as mine, neither, thereby admitting that it wasn't a true dichotomy. And the answer was there all the time in the name of the argument, which is transcendent. But anyway, is that all you had, was to
that's
complain about
it.
Alex, or to complain about William Lane Craig? Yeah. I don't know. I'd love to find somebody.
Well, I mean, is there anyone you can actually recommend that makes kind of an interesting argument for theism, or is there just pretty much nothing out there?
I'm not aware of anything. If there was something out there, I'd be a theist.
It depends on how you want to define interesting.
Well, I mean, just at least thought-provoking, because I mean, I don't really expect to be converted, but I expect to at least be challenged.
Yeah. Well. It depends on if you're defining interesting as who is more fun to pick through and refute. I guess that's you're scratching our chins.
Yeah, I've been asked before if there was any particular theist that I'd recommend, or apologist that I'd recommend. I can't, because every time I've gotten to the point where I thought, okay, this is the guy. So, for example, when I was still a believer, I was a fan of Josh McDowell, particularly Evidence That Demands a Verdict. And then as I began to study, then it became obvious to me what an unscholarly buffoon Josh McDowell is, and how his evidence and argument are laughable. The thing is that they're presented as a preaching to the choir, preaching to the uneducated, credulous, uninterested in learning about reality choir. And what it does is it bolsters up their preconceptions. And I was part of that choir. I believed this. I open up evidence. Look, here is all of this evidence which justifies what I already believe. Wow, this is cool. I am justified in my beliefs. And then you trudge off down the line. And there's nothing I like more than have somebody call in who has had their faith bolstered by Comfort or McDowell or Strobel or Craig, and to come on and to present their favorite argument, only to get the wake-up call of a lifetime. Because I know when the call's done, not only have other people benefited, but that individual is going to have to go back and start rereading and starting to find, wait, what's the next thing? Somehow he got off script on me. I'm not even sure what happened. He didn't say yes when he was supposed to.
Yeah. And by the same
I don't
token,
find any of them impressive.
Yeah, I didn't have quite the fundamentalist background you had. I had more of a mainstream Christian background. You really studied it.
You were never a true Christian.
Yeah,
none of us were, according to them.
And
you know what?
Depending
You're
on their
absolutely
definition,
right.
I agree.
Actually, you know what? You're absolutely right, because you're talking about the people that you talk to these days say they believe this, that, and the other, and they don't really. I honestly don't really think I ever did. Even in my church-going youth, part of the youth choir days, I really don't think I ever genuinely did. It was part of that. It was fitting in with the family and the culture situation. But likewise, I've read popular Christian apologists. Guys like D. James Kennedy and people like that. I haven't gone on to study the more advanced academic theologians because, quite frankly, your average rank and file Christian doesn't really know what those people have to say either, and doesn't particularly care. One of the criticisms that was leveled at Dawkins when the God delusion came out was that, he's theologically unsophisticated. He doesn't understand all the sophisticated theology that the sophisticated theologians and academia understand. And it's like, that was just such an irrelevant criticism to bring up, and P.C. Myers mocked it, I think, very well, because, look, you go to any church in America, right, and, Joe and Jill Sixpack, sitting in the pews, right, every Sunday, they don't understand the sophisticated theology, and they don't care. They're there to get comfort. They're there to hear about Sky Daddy, who's out there looking after them when they're worried about getting their, mortgage, the problems that they may be having with their jobs or this, that, or the other thing. They're just looking for a security blanket. And they don't really care about...
Especially when some of the more considered elite theologians are pretty much ones that believe in something like the foundation of all being, or God as just a really neat concept.
Yeah, I know, and that is not what your average rank and file Christian believes in this country. They just don't care. The abstruse God of the theologians just doesn't play anywhere but in the mind of the theologians.
The so-called sophisticated arguments are anything but. While Mythbusters have demonstrated that you can, in fact, shine a turd, that is roughly what they're attempting to do.
What did they use in that? I didn't see that episode.
You'll have to go back and you'll have to look
They
that
actually
up.
Shown a turd?
Yes.
Like they buffed it and polished it and did
Oh, yes.
Oh, nice.
And Adam was very proud.
I bet they froze it first.
You have to watch the episode. And actually, what the point was, that this is what they're attempting to do, it's just that they don't know what they're doing. You can dress something up. You can dress
pretty
up
much
a pig.
saying we want to believe in God, but we just don't want all the messy stuff involved with believing in God. So we're just going to say we believe in God, even if he's just a concept.
They're trying to dress up a pig, and while that can be amusing on occasion, it doesn't make it somebody you want to take to the prom.
But what's fun when you read popular apologists like Strobel, like good Lord Ray Comfort, like D. James Kennedy, and you look at these books and you look at just how transparently lame the arguments are, and what they think passes for arguments in these books. And honestly, like a juvenile level of cognition compared to what you get from, Dennett, Hitchens, Dawkins, the rest. It's and understanding that these arguments are completely bought by the target audience. The readers of these books think it's great. You're dealing with people who aren't really coming to the thing with a great deal of intellectual muscle. They're looking for the emotional comfort in the belief.
It's just kind of sad. I mean, I was a fundamentalist. I pretty much became an atheist because I wanted to challenge my beliefs, and it kind of seems now, as an atheist, I still try and challenge my beliefs and concepts, and they just aren't stepping up to the plate.
That's what happens the closer you get to being right. Thanks a lot, Alex. I appreciate the call.
Thank you for your time.
All right, we got like 2.5 minutes left, and Ben from Toland is going to probably be the last caller. Ben, you there?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Good. How are you? I'm just an atheist, and I had a quick question to ask you guys, an atheist watching.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the story of Horus in Egyptian mythology?
Vaguely, roughly.
Oh, right. Yeah, was he the one who got his pecker ripped off and had the...
I'm not quite sure, but it's basically the same story as the story of Jesus in the New Testament.
No, it's not.
It's not?
Not quite.
It's not basically the same story.
Because I've been doing some research and everything, and I've been looking it up, and it seems that the storyline follows almost exactly as the New Testament.
Wow. Okay. As far as I know, and I have spent some time on this, that's not the case. There are some people out there making some. You can find similarities in the mythic hero type that are going to be comparable across the board. But there are some rather unscrupulous and unscholarly individuals out there making BS claims that overemphasize aspects. For example, I would imagine that you would think your claim would be that Osiris was born of a virgin.
Yeah.
But that's not true. That's not in the story. In the story, she actually has intercourse with the, as Martin pointed out, the penis that she had removed. There is a process there. It wasn't a magical conception without sex. And when you start looking at the story like that, getting to the details, you see that the similarities that people are trying to make are, Jesus didn't have an earthly father that, did an act to impregnate his mother. And the same is true in the Osiris story.
Wasn't it?
It's not. You draw a line, you draw the primary points of the story. They don't match up any more than any other mythic figure.
And weren't Set and Horus brothers?
And they had gone past my.
Right,
and
I
don't want to say.
Fight, and one of them.
But we're out of time.
Oh.
And I appreciate the call, Ben.
I just wanted to clear up that and make sure because
I got to stop. I got to stop because they're running the credits.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Ben. Appreciate the call. You can find out more information at the ACA website. You can also email us at tv@atheist-community.org. If you didn't get through or didn't want to get through or you had questions or anything else, there's the credit information from Brian Speaks.
There's Brian. There's his website.
Whose album is out at CD Baby. And Daniel Warwick and other stuff like that. And probably, what? Oh,
Threadgills. See you at Threadgills.
We're going to be at Threadgills very shortly. We'll be back again next week. Thanks, everybody. See you.
No, not next week. Not next week.